Hello and welcome to this edition of the G24 Newsroom. Today we are going to make a focus on the military takeover in Gabon and its impact on the sub-region. To discuss it, I receive on this set Dr. Jean-Cédric Obam-Eman. He's a defense, diplomacy and security consultant. Hello, Mr. Obam.
Hello, how are you doing, gentlemen?
How are you doing?
Just fine.
So we also receive Mr. Steve Obam-Abba, a consultant for our channel. Hello, Mr. Obam.
Hello.
How are you doing?
On top of the world.
Okay, so as I said before, we're going to talk about the military takeover in Gabon. But beforehand, let's watch this report that our newsroom prepared for this newsroom. Just watch.
From the Latin transitionem and the radical transitio meaning passage, the etymological understanding of the word transition refers to an action, a way of moving from one state to another, a way of linking the parts of a discourse, a line of reasoning or a work. In music, a transition is the passage from one rhythm, tone, or mode to another. In architecture, it's an intermediate period between two styles that are representative of a trend or school. In philosophy, and especially in Marxist terminology, transition marks the phase in the evolution of a society, more or less rapid and more or less violent, prior to communism. By extension, transition is the passage of a political regime from one state of affairs, one order to another. This process is characterized by the gradual transition from a non-democratic regime to a democracy, and can take place under very different conditions. In Gabon, where the military seized power in the early hours on Wednesday, August the 30th, 2023, the dissolution of institutions was announced along with the establishment of the Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions, headed by General Brice Clotaire Oligui, Commander-in-Chief of the Republican Guard. The new institution will lead the transition for a period yet to be determined.
Okay, so what we saw happened about more than a month ago. The country was very surprised in the morning to wake up and discover that military had taken the power. So, Mr. Obam, first question for you. Do you think that this coup can be called a coup de liberté, as they say in French, or is it a coup d'etat, like properly? What's the difference between both?
Okay, it's important to provide a definition whether this is a military coup or not. From a constitutional perspective, it's a military coup. But to question the legitimacy of a military coup, you gotta question whether institutions are democratic. In other words, you gotta question the integrity of institutions. The previous regime has been, unfortunately, or previous institution characterized by brutality. By brutality, I'm referring to social exclusion. For example, social exclusion, recruitment in public sectors, lack of health insurance, etc., even lack of scholarship. Now, when institutions are not democratic like the previous institution, and we have a military takeover. In this case, we cannot question the legitimacy of such political action. If, for example, from a Gabonese perspective, this is not a military coup.
Okay.
We have just seen a celebration on this very August 30, 2023, it was a national celebration. People don't really pay attention, for example, on all the different conspiracy theories on the internet, saying that powers are behind this military coup or that France is behind. People do pay attention about social change. Now, is it a military coup? No, from Gabonese perspective, we do not perceive it just like that. We perceive it as a...
Mr. Abba, can I call you Abba? Mr. Abba? Because now we have Mr. Obam here. It would be... Okay, so do you think that it was too much? Because what people say mostly in this report or in other reports that we had, is like it was too much. What do you think about it?
It was too much.
Like the power in place, like they have to be removed. So it was too much for the people to, to keep with this power. So what do you think about it?
Well, I'm going to answer to this question as a citizen.
Yeah.
And I'm going to answer to that question with open-mindedness.
Yeah, please do.
And reality. Back in 1960, I think we got our independence from France, right? And I think the first president we had was Léon. I think he ran over a country for, I think, 4 years.
4 years. Before becoming sick.
Before he became sick. And in 1967, Ali Bongo, Omar Bongo Ondimba, I'm sorry, became the second president of our country. And he stayed in power for, I think, if I'm not wrong, he stayed in power for 42 years.
Yeah.
Think about it. Then, when he passed away in 29, I think, his son, Ali Bongo, became his successor after what happened in 29, presidential election, all right? Ali Bongo stayed in power for 14 years.
2 elections.
Ali Bongo and Omar Bongo, and I want to be honest here, is the same person. We are talking about the same family. So it means that one family reigned over us for
56 years.
66 years.
56, yeah.
Think about it. This is a big number. That means our country is hard. If you look at, if we compare, if you try to find out how hard is our country from 1960 to 2023, I think we are around that age. So that means we've known only one president.
Yeah. One family.
One family. Was it enough? Of course, it was enough. Most importantly, why was it enough? Most importantly, because people did not see real progress behind the leadership of their family in power. If we had seen progress behind that family, I don't think people would have been that happy, that merited to see the end of that family in power. That's what I think, honestly.
Okay, maybe you want to say something about it?
Yes, we have to understand that people were under social unrest. Social unrest. People were oppressed. The former regime, as I said, was characterized by brutality. In 2016 election, after the release of the result, former President Ali Bongo was characterized by his brutality. Let me be specific. The military forces and the police brutalized civilians in 2016 election. This year, the military forces and the police said they would not brutalize any civilian. Well, I take this chance to congratulate military forces and the police for what they did, and especially our transition president of state, Brice Clotaire Oligingema, for this very courageous action. They did not brutalized. I don't know whether a civilian has ever been brutalized this year, but in 2016, we know that we had a lot of violence. I'm a bit specific. We have had a bombing on the former presidential candidate Jean Ping, under the command of former President Ali Bongo on civilians. Yeah. This year, I'm pretty sure that Brice Clotaire Oligingema said if this would not happen again, we will work for the civilians, for the republic, and for the country. So I congratulate military forces.
Okay, so we understand that it was indeed enough. The former regime was talking about peace. They say that we have to keep the peace. Do you think that, what is the difference between the peace we had before and the peace we had now? Mr. Robin Steele.
Okay, when we talk about peace, you got to understand there is a completeness of peace. In this case, we have negative peace and positive peace. If we provide a definition of peace as the mere absence of war or physical or direct violence, then we have negative peace. Of course, it is important. It means we have a freedom of movement. You can go to work, make your business, go to school, whatever. That's the first, that's the basic
peace.
That's a basic. Now, the completeness of peace comes when we take into consideration to undermine social violence or violence within the structures of society. We have to undermine, we have to bring into consideration the social integration of people. What it means? It means when I talk about violence, poverty is violence. Unemployment is violence. Social exclusion is violence. Therefore, peace...
That's another way of seeing things.
Of course,
You know,
I talk
we feel
about
about violence, it is something physical.
Yes, in fact, in security studies, in this case, peace studies, we have direct and indirect violence.
Okay.
Unemployment is violence, but it's indirect violence.
Okay.
Poverty is violence, but indirect violence. Therefore, you asked me a question, or asked a question about peace. Peace has to take into consideration both negative and positive peace that I developed in my book. I wrote a book. It was released the very day of the elections. I mean, the very day of a military coup. Therefore, yes, we need more social integration. It means undermining social disparities, integrating people. And I want to take a case. This week, the Public Employment Minister, Mr. Ngazouze, called the Human Resources Director and gave an instruction about the new recruitment program that's going to start very soon.
Civil servants.
2 days later, Prime Minister Raymond Ndonsima also called a meeting for this Human Resources Directors of all the departments because of this program of recruitment. What does it mean? It means they would like to undermine violence within the structures of society. Unemployment is violence.
Okay, so Mr. Abba, peace, again. Do you think it was a kind of subterfuge, you know, as we say in French, like it was a mask that Gabonese people were wearing during 54 years?
Good. First want to go to what really peace represents. What is peace, in fact? I think according
Omar
to...
Bongo used to say, we eat peace.
We eat peace.
He used to say that.
Good. Peace to me, I think, peace to me is the consequence of law enforcement. Peace is it's important to underscore. Peace is the consequence of law enforcement. The law should be born out of people's willingness, out of people's inspiration. When those laws are applied or executed, the consequence to that is what we call peace.
Yeah.
So peace, a peaceful country is a country where law enforcement is real. And those laws have been voted by people, so grassroots politics.
Yeah.
Now, you asked the question, back with the former president, could we talk about peace at that moment, or are we now today legitimate to talk about it? I think back with the former president, we could not be talking about peace, simply because law enforcement was not real. There were top dogs and other dogs.
Okay.
The law was voted, omitted, in order to satisfy top dogs, while other dogs were still with the problems, lodging problems or housing problems, unemployment rate keep rising, student having problem going to school, there's no school close to homes, etc. This problem for underdogs, we could not be talking about peace. So peace existed with, I'm talking about the former president, peace was real with top dogs.
Okay.
Because law enforcement was real on their side, but law enforcement was not real on the side of underdogs.
Of the people.
Now today, we are legitimate to talk about peace. I know we are still in the early phase of this transition, so a little bit earlier to already, you know, but from the first product that we are already seeing from the transition, I think people really now can talk about peace because
they feel it.
Yeah, they feel it, they live it, they witness that. Peace is now lived. Peace is now lived by underdogs. Okay. Because now job opportunities are coming up.
As you said before.
Jobs opportunities are coming up, and it is real. He reminded us of the recent meeting between the Prime Minister of the transition and Human Resources Manager or Superintendent. What was the order? You have to receive job applications of Gabonese citizens. It is a must. And how many ministers have we got? A lot. And think about all those jobs that we're going to be creating. So peace is coming. Yeah. I mean, we've never witnessed real peace than that. I want to say that. All right.
Okay, but now, I would like us to go a bit wider because, you know, what is happening now is Brice Clotaire Oligui Nguema, the president of a transition, has gone in different countries. You know, he went to Equatorial Guinea. He went also to, I think, Central African Republic.
And Brazza Congo.
And Congo,
DRC,
Brazzaville.
I think. No?
Yeah, no,
Not DRC, Congo, Brazzaville.
Okay.
And we know that he's going there in order to have a kind of diplomatic move for Gabon to be reinstated, you know, because officially Gabon has been sanctioned by the ECAS, by CIMAC, by the African Union.
Even the international community.
Exactly, because they say it was a military coup and they have to, you know, apply the same rules for everybody, even though we could discuss what happened in Niger, in Chad and stuff. But
And here.
I would like Dr. Obam to tell me, because you wrote a book about it, you are a defense and security expert. Do you think that Brice Clotaire Oligui Nguema can really bring back Gabon at the table, you know, of the international community?
Affirmative. In fact, what Brice Clotaire Oligui Nguema is doing is to strengthen diplomatic ties. You know, we are in the ECAS, Economic Community of Central African States. And he started with the head of his institution, President Obiangema Bazogo, who is the head. This is a diplomatic tactic to discuss, to bring these people. It's normal to sanction a military coup. It's just like this that people have to be done. The UN, the AU, all these institutions, even the ECAS that I just mentioned, sanction. Yes, it started with this regional diplomatic tactique. For example, let me mention Bangui. From 3 or 4 years ago, he went to Bangui. The outcome of this diplomatic interview or contact with President Bangui is that we will open a diplomatic mission in embassy in Bangui, because we don't have any embassy there. Which means that our diplomatic ties will be closer. Yes, I believe that what Brice Clotaire Oligui is doing is to show the legitimacy of a political takeover that we call a freedom takeover.
Yeah.
And of course, he said, even when he was in Bangui talking with the Gabonese community, he said that this is not a military takeover. And he took a word from Equatorial Guinea's president in 1979. When he took over, he said, "They call it el golpe de la libertad," meaning the coup of freedom. That is from presidential perspective, from Brice Clotaire Oligui's perspective or view, this is not a military coup. Therefore, when he started in the regional community to convince these people that what I did is not personal, I did it for the country, for the republic, then he would move further to West Africa, Europe, and we would naturally go to the organizing of elections themselves. Yes, he can do that. I'm pretty sure.
Mr. Abba?
Good. I think the president of the transition, Excellence Mr. Brice Clotaire Oligui Nguema, is totally mindful of the reality that no country on earth, whether we're talking about African country, Asian country, American countries, no country, there's no single country on earth that can live in its own bubble. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So whoever you are, long as you are the first political figure of a community in the 21st century, you have to know you cannot live in your own bubble. I think he's very mindful of that. So he started a membership campaign starting within ourselves, so the Central Africa. He first went to Equatorial Guinea, right?
Yeah.
Met the president there. I think he's conducting a membership campaign trying to explain the legitimacy of the action he took on behalf of the Gabonese people. And I think the argument that he's been making to those other presidents are very powerful, and that's why we could see he's so welcomed and understood, because of the argument that he's making on the legitimacy of
we
what
also
happened.
saw Raymond Donsima. He was recently at the UNGA, United Nations General Assembly, and he made a 30-minute speech about the truth of the coup. He said people should not condemn the coup before understanding the reality of what was happening in Gabon. So we have the Prime Minister at the UNGA, we have the President here in the CIMAC doing. Do you think in a short time period, because we have also the Commonwealth that said that they give Gabon, I think, 2 years, I think. They said 2 years.
2 years.
If civilians don't come back on power, we will be removed. And that's only one of many threats that we had. Do you think Presbyter Olingingema is going to make it, Mr. Obam? Dr. Obam, sorry.
Okay. The issue of legitimacy will always come forth. Why? The very day of a military coup, people did not go out to challenge the military forces. They did not go to the street to engage the military forces. They were celebrating, which is number one proof of this legitimacy.
Yeah.
Well, in international politics, normally civilians have to rule states, not military officers. This is why we call it, they call back constitutional order.
Yeah.
Transition is a period. I perceive that President Brice Oligui is facing a lot of diplomatic pressures for this transition. I believe that if he works towards the organizing of these elections, but it's not the only challenge that he has. At the same time, he's a head of state.
Yeah.
He has to solve economic issues, social issues at the same time. He cannot just be focused on the elections.
Yeah.
He have, my brother right here just said that people needed employment. They need employment. People need a scholarship. Students need scholarship to go, maybe to do their PhDs abroad, etc. So the only challenge, the number one challenge he has is not only these elections. Of course, the elections themselves have to come on the center on the debate. It's true. I believe between 20 to 36 months will be reasonable for this transition period.
I would like us to tackle one thing because we have only 3 minutes remaining. Yesterday, on Friday night, the spokesperson of the CTRI named the members of the parliament. We had the National Assembly and the Senate. What is your opinion about it? We have a lot of mixed opinion on the internet. People say that it is mostly people from the former majority. People say it is well balanced. Mr. Obam Abba, what do you think about it?
Well, I think I read the document earlier this morning.
Yeah.
And I went through names.
Is it a good move? Is it a good move?
Well, I think I judge a decision from consequences.
Okay.
I don't judge, a mechanic before doing his work. So people have been appointed. Trust has been placed upon them. Give them a second chance or a third chance. And let's wait for a moment to finally say, I think the decision to bring some people back into the running bubble was wrong. But for the time being, I think we have to reconsider our perspective and try to look at how things are going to unfold.
Okay, Mr. Obam.
Okay.
Dr. Obam, sorry.
It's okay. It's not just about this parliament. Even members of government, people have been arguing about saying that these are the majority of members of this transition government are from the former regime, mainly the Gabonese Democratic Party. I believe that people from the Democratic Party are Gabonese people. We don't have to promote hatred.
Yeah.
I believe that we are all Gabonese people, yes. And I do not believe that all of these people from the Gabonese Democratic Party are incompetent. I don't believe that. I believe that they are. We have some competent people that they were just stifled by the party itself. They didn't have the possibility to express their views.
So they have an opportunity to do better.
That's there. And I believe they are Gabonese people. Yes, Mostly according to what we perceive from the former ruling party, the Gabonese Democratic Party, but they are Gabonese people.
Yeah.
Let's see what they can bring forth from this transition period. We don't have to center the debate on whether they are this or they are that. What about the result?
Or have a polarized country where we have on the one hand former political figures that were like there for long, and new Gabon. No, we should have a united country.
Okay.
I think behind the strategy used by the president of the transition, I think the answer to this hatred spreading all around is that we are the same. Those who were in that regime were not totally happy with what was happening, but they were ruled and they had to keep it down.
Okay,
so let's give everybody a second chance.
I remind our people watching that you are Dr. Jean-Cédric Obam-Eman. You wrote a book that we are going to discuss about it maybe in other shows, because now we've reached the end of this edition. You are a defense, diplomacy and security consultant.
Yes.
And we have also Mr. Steve Obamaba, a consultant. So hope to have you again. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
So, well, we've reached the end of this edition of G24 Newsroom. You can still follow us on social networks. Don't forget, life is what you make it. Goodbye.